Welcome once again to our commerce classroom. In this session, we will discuss about absorption of overheads. We know this is the last stage in our overhead accounting. After primary distribution and secondary distribution, we know about the total overhead of our production departments. Absorption of overhead is the process of charging total overheads of production departments to the output of that department. I repeat, absorption overhead means the process of charging the total overhead of production departments to the output of that department. We have one definition for absorption of overhead given. Definition is this: overhead absorption is defined as the allotment of overhead to cost units by means of rates separately calculated for each cost center. I repeat, overhead absorption is defined as the allotment of overhead to cost units by means of rates separately calculated for each cost center. Then we discuss about overhead rates. We know overhead rate is the rate used for absorption of overheads. Overhead rate is the rate used for absorption of overhead. We can calculate this overhead rate by dividing the total of overheads to be absorbed by a suitable base. Overhead to be absorbed divided by a suitable base, we will get overhead rate. We are using mainly 5 types of overhead rates for absorption of overheads. First one, actual rate. Second one, predetermined rate. Third one, standard rate. Fourth one, blanket rate. And fifth one, multiple rate. Firstly, actual rate. We know actual rate is calculated by dividing the actual overhead of a period by actual base. Actual overhead is calculated by dividing the actual overhead of that period divided by actual base. Our actual base may be number of units produced during that period, direct material, direct labor, labor hours, machine hours, etc. of that period. Actual rate is equal to actual overhead to be absorbed for that period divided by actual base for the period. Then our second type of overhead rate is predetermined rate. In case of predetermined rate, the rate is determined before undertaking the production. Before starting production, we will decide our overhead rate. Predetermined rate is equal to budgeted overheads for the period divided by budgeted base for the period. Then our third type of overhead rate is standard rate. The standard rate is applied when standard costing is followed. Standard rate is equal to standard overhead for the period divided by standard base. Then our fourth type of overhead rate is blanket rate. This blanket rate, the name itself reveals that we use a single rate for our factory. Here, blanket rate we can find out it by overhead cost of the entire factory divided by total quantity of base. Then our last type of overhead rate is multiple rate. It refers to different absorption rates for different departments or cost centers. Multiple rate is equal to overhead cost of a department divided by corresponding base. These are about our 5 types of overhead rates. Then we discuss about methods of absorption of factory overhead. Here we are discussing only about absorption of factory overhead. We have so many other types of overheads: selling and distribution overhead, administration overhead, etc. Here we discuss about methods of absorption of factory overheads. We know depending on the base used, there are several methods of absorption. In case of factory overhead, we know for calculating a rate, we want to have numerator and denominator. Numerator in all case will be the factory overhead and denominator will change. Depend on the change in denominator, there are several methods of absorption of factory overhead. Our first method is production unit method. In production unit method, production unit rate is equal to our numerator, always factory overhead. So factory overhead divided by our base, our denominator will change. In case of production unit method, our denominator will be number of units produced. So production unit rate is equal to factory overhead divided by number of units produced. Second method of absorption of factory overhead is percentage on direct material cost. Here also our numerator will be factory overhead to be absorbed divided by our base will change. Here our base direct material cost. So percentage on direct material cost is equal to factory overhead to be absorbed divided by direct material cost into 100. Then our third method of absorption of factory overhead is percentage on direct wages. Here our base, our denominator will be direct wages. Our formula, factory overhead to be absorbed divided by direct wages into 100. Then fourth method of absorption of overhead, percentage on prime cost. Here our base will be prime cost. So our formula, factory overhead to be absorbed divided by prime cost into 100. Then the fifth method of absorption of factory overhead is direct labor hour rate. Direct labor hour rate. In that case, our base will be direct labor hour. So our formula, factory overhead to be absorbed divided by direct labor hours. Last method of absorption of factory overhead is dual hour rate. This dual hour rate is combination of labor hour rate and machine hour rate. Use labor hour rate for manual labor force and machine hour rate for mechanical machine work. Then we illustrate the use of different methods of absorption of factory overhead with the support of an example. Our question is this: the following particulars are related to the production department of a factory for the month of January. Materials used rupees 80,000, direct wages rupees 60,000, labor hours worked 20,000, machine hours worked 25,000, then overhead charges allocated to the department rupees 48,000. Cost data of a particular work order carried out in the above department during January are: materials used rupees 8,000, direct wages rupees 6,250, labor hours booked 3,300, machine hours booked 2,400. Calculate the overhead chargeable to the job by the following methods of absorbing overheads. First, direct material cost percentage. Second, direct labor cost percentage. Third, labor hour rate. And fourth, machine hour rate. Here our question has two parts. First part, the information about the factory for the month of January. Material used 80,000, direct wages rupees 60,000, the labor hours worked 20,000 hours, then machine hours worked 25,000, and during that month the overhead charges totally incurred to the factory rupees 48,000. This information is about the all activities carried out in the department during the month of January. This is actually given to find out our direct material cost percentage, direct labor cost percentage, then labor hour rate and machine hour rate. These are the four things, four rates. asked us to find out in this problem. Then after find out these rates by using the information from our first part, I mean direct material cost percentage is equal to 48,000 divided by 80,000 into 100. Then direct labor cost percentage is equal to 48,000 divided by the 60,000 into 100. Then labor, our rate is equal to, we know, 48,000 divided by this labor hours worked 20,000. We get a rate. Then machine hour rate is equal to factory our overhead 48,000 divided by machine hours worked 25,000. We get a rate. After find out these rates, we have to calculate cost data of a particular work carried out in that department during the month of January. Here we carried out one work in our department during that month. For that work we used the material 8,000, then direct wages 6,250, then labor hours booked 3,300, then machine hours booked 2,400. This is one work we carried out in the factory, in the department during the last month. We have to find out the cost data for that particular job. So firstly we find out the absorption rate by using the information in the first part of our question, and then after getting that percentage we applied that percentage to the second part of our question to find out the cost data for our particular job. Then we go to the solution. Firstly, we find out the direct material cost percentage. We know our factory, our overhead is equal to 48,000, and then our direct material cost 80,000. So 48,000 divided by 80,000 into 100, that is equal to 60%. We apply that 60% for overhead chargeable to the job. The material cost for that particular job is 8,000, so it's a 60%. That is equal to 4,800 will be the overhead chargeable to that job. Then second, direct labor cost percentage. We know our factory, our overhead is equal to 48,000, that divided by direct wage, total direct wage 60,000 into 100, then we get 80%. Then overhead chargeable to the job for this 6,250, that is equal to 6,250 into 80%, that comes to 5,000. Then direct labor rate, overhead 48,000 divided by direct labor hours during the month of January 20,000, we get 2.4. Then overhead chargeable to the job 3,300 into 2.4, that is equal to 7,920. Then machine hour rate, overhead 48,000 divided by machine hours for the month 25,000, 48,000 divided by 25,000, we get 1.92. We apply this 1.92 to the job which incurred machine hours 2,400. So overhead charged to the job is equal to 2,400 into 1.92, that is equal to rupees 4,608. I think the practical application of these different absorption rates is clear for all of you. Then our next session is to find out machine hour rate. Machine hour rate, the name itself reveals that machine hour rate. That means cost incurred for running machine for 1 hour. That is what machine hour rate. Machine hour rate is the cost incurred for running a machine for 1 hour. Then overhead expenses charged to the machine cost center are divided into two. We know standing charges and machine expenses. Standing charges refers to fixed expenses such as rent and rates, insurance, lighting and heating, then general expenses, then supervision, salary, etc. that remain fixed irrespective of our level of operation. So these expenses are fixed in nature. These expenses come under our standing charges. Then second category, machine expenses. Machine expenses are variable expenses such as depreciation, repair and maintenance, power, then steam and water. All these are related to the level of operation of our machine. So these items come under our machine expenses. Then I show you how we practically find out machine hour rate. Our question is this: calculate machine hour rate for the following machine. Cost of machine rupees 4,20,000, freight and installation 30,000. We know our cost of machine include cost of machine plus freight and installation. So if our cost of machine is equal to 4,20,000 plus the 30,000, that is equal to 4,50,000. The reason freight and installation will form part of cost of machine. Then third information: working life 10 years, working hours per annum 10,000 hours. Then repair charges 40% of depreciation. Lubricating oil rupees 30 per day of 8 hours. Consumable stores rupees 20 per day of 8 hours. Then wages of operator rupees 100 per day of 8 hours. Then power 8 units per hour at the rate of rupees 2 per hour. This is our question. This is our information. First of all, what we want to do is to separate these different expenses as fixed and variable. I mean standing expenses and machine expenses. Here the nature of standing expense, fixed expense is this: that remain fixed irrespective of the level of activity. Here we know lubricating oil, that remain fixed. Then consumable stores, that also remain fixed. Then wages of operator remain fixed. Here our standing charges are lubricating oil, consumable stores, then wages of operator. Then our machine expenses, that means variable expenses, depreciation. We can find out depreciation from this question. Depreciation is variable. Then repair charge 40% of depreciation, that also is variable. And then power, that is variable. So our machine expenses are depreciation, then repair charge and power. Our standing charges are lubricating oil, consumable stores, wage of operator. Then we solve this question. Standing charges, we know lubricating oil 30 for 8 hours, consumable stores rupees 20 for 8 hours, wages of operator rupees 100 for 8 hours. So its total comes to 30 plus 20 plus 100, 150. We know this 150 we incurred for 8 hours. So standing charge per hour is equal to 150 divided by 8, that is equal to 18.75. Then machine expenses. In case of machine expenses, we know the cost of our machine. We already found out it 4,50,000. 4,50,000 divided by is a life 10 years. Then 1 year it run for 10,000 hours. So depreciation per hour is equal to 4,50,000 divided by 1 lakh. 4,50,000 divided by 1 lakh. Machine's life for 10 years and 1 year that machine runs for 10,000 hours. So depreciation for 1 hour is equal to 4,50,000 divided by 1 lakh, that is equal to 4.5. Then we know repair charge 40% of our depreciation. Depreciation we already find out into 4.5. So repair charge is equal to 4.5 into 40%, that is equal to 1.8. Then power 8 into 2, 16. So our total machine hour rate, that means rate of running, cost of running machine for 1 hour is equal to our standing charge total 18.75, then depreciation 4.5, repair 1.8, then power 16. A total 41.05. 41.05 will be our machine hour rate. I think this computation of machine hour rate is clear for all of you. Then now we discuss about under or over absorption of overheads. We know overheads are absorbed with the help of actual rates or predetermined rates. If we use actual rates, there will be no difference between the actual overhead incurred during that period and the amount of overheads absorbed through production. But if we use predetermined rates, there may be a difference between the amount of overhead incurred and absorbed. The difference between the amount of overhead incurred and the overhead absorbed through production is called over or under absorption of overhead. I repeat it. The difference between the amount of actual overhead incurred and overhead absorbed through production is called over or under absorption of overhead. If the absorbed amount is less than the actual overhead, it is called under absorption. If the absorbed overhead is more than actual overhead, it is called over absorption. Then, in what way we treat this over or under absorption in our books of accounts? If the amount of over absorption or under absorption is considerable, we use supplementary rate to adjust this over or under absorption in our books. If the amount of over absorption or under absorption is small, we write off that amount through our costing P&L account. Then in our third case, if it is difficult or not possible to adjust in the current year that over absorbed or under absorbed overhead amount, we will carry forward that amount to the next period's account. I think the treatment of this under absorption or over absorption in our books of accounts is clear for all of you. Here we are ending the fifth part of our overhead. In this session, we discussed about absorption of overheads. I think all sessions discussed by us clear for all of you. We will meet again. Till then, goodbye.